What if Sweden won the Great Northern War? The Great Northern War was a conflict that raged in northern and eastern Europe, especially around the Baltic Sea from 1700 to 1721. It began when Denmark-Norway, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Tsardom of Russia formed an alliance aimed at Sweden. Denmark-Norway wanted Scania, Poland-Lithuania wanted Livonia, and Russia wanted Ingria. Another reason for the alliance was that Sweden was ever since the death of Charles XI in 1697 ruled by a minor. The war started off pretty successful for SW Den as they defeated Poland in Riga, pulled Denmark out of the war and crushed Russia in Narva, but later the war turned against them, especially after Poltava, and in 1718 Charles XII even died. In the end, Sweden lost Ingria and Livonia to Russia and parts of Pomerania to Prussia. The war marked the end of the Swedish Empire and the start of the Russian Empire. But what if that didn't happen? What if Sweden won the Great Northern War? In this timeline, Peter the Great stays on Narva. He left in our own timeline just one day before the battle itself because he thought nothing will happen. And so when the blizzard changes direction and Sweden overruns the Russians, they panic and cause the bridge to collapse, meaning Peter the Great is captured by Sweden. Russia has to surrender and they sign the Treaty of Novgorod. Sweden annexes Karelia, Kola and lands west of the Volkhov River, including the city of Novgorod itself. In exchange, Sweden returns Peter the Great. Now with both Denmark, Norway and Russia defeated in the first year, Poland-Lithuania is now all alone. Sweden launches in 1701 its invasion of Poland. Prussia too joins the invasion as well, and in 1702 Poland surrenders. In the Treaty of Riga, Poland loses Courland and Letgoland to Sweden and Royal Prussia to Prussia, connecting Brandenburg to Prussia. In secret, Charles XII and Frederick I negotiate a plan. In 1703, Prussia and Swedish forces invade Austria as they were at war against France because of the Spanish succession. They push quickly into Silesia and Bohemia and force Austria to make peace. French, Spanish, Swedish and Prussian forces also capture the Netherlands and Portugal, and Savoy switches sides again. At this point, England and Scotland were left, and they sue for peace, and they sign the Treaty of Utrecht. Prussia annexes Silesia and Hungary becomes independent under Francis II Rákóczi. Spain, now under Philip of Anjou, re-annexes Portugal and the Netherlands, while France annexes the Rhineland. The war strengthened the Franco-Spanish alliance and the Swedish-Prussian alliance while weakening Austria. The Kingdom of Hungary wasn't meant to last long, and it was invaded by the Ottoman Empire and puppeted. The Ottomans also take Morea from Venice in 1707. Without Russia getting a port in the Baltic Sea and westernizing the times after the death of Peter the Not-So-Great would be even more chaotic, like a second times of troubles. Other nations would smell blood. The Ottoman Empire would regain Azov and Poland would retake Kiev and Smolensk. In the end, Elizabeth I brings back stability, but she inherits a much weaker Russia. Meanwhile, Austria would still form an alliance with the Francophone while Prussia forms one with Great Britain, and in 1756 a war broke out over Ohio that will not last 7 years. Prussia was quick to capitulate Austria and then marched into the west, and manages to capitulate France, ending the war. Great Britain takes French colonies in North America and India, while Prussia takes the rest of Austrian Silesia and expands into northern Germany, while Bohemia becomes a dependency. The war solidified Prussia as the dominant power in the Holy Roman Empire, and after Francis I died, it is possible that Frederick the Great becomes Holy Roman Emperor as Frederick IV, ending centuries of Habsburg domination and paving the road to Hohenzollern domination. The 13 colonies still revolt against British rule with French help, and after the war ends, the newly formed United States of America contains Louisiana. In France, a revolution still breaks out, and the coalition wars still happen. Here, Prussia takes a more hostile role against France than Austria. In the War of the Second and Third Coalition, Prussia was involved, but ended up losing lands west of the Elbe to the Confederation of the Rhine, and Sweden would lose Poland-Lithuania to France. France still invades Russia, and despite of being closer to Moscow before the invasion than in Otel, he is still complete defeated, and in 1814 Swedish, Prussian and Swedish forces capture Paris. In the Berlin Conference, the four great powers Prussia, Russia, the United Kingdom and Sweden agree to split Poland-Lithuania amongst the Prussians, Swedes and Russians. Prussia annexes Poland, Russia annexes Ruthenia and Sweden annexes Lithuania. Sweden also still takes Norway. In France after the 1830 revolution Charles X has to abdicate in favor of Louis Philippe, and in 1848 he too has to abdicate. In the German Confederation Prussia being the dominant force without question would lead the unification much earlier. Meanwhile Spain still ends up falling apart. Not only did they lose their colonies, but in 1830 the Spanish Netherlands and in 1848 Naples and Sicily all become independent. During this chaos Austria took Milan only to lose it alongside Venetia to Piedmont Sardinia. They then unify with the newly established United Provinces of Central Italy, Roman Republic and Naples into the Kingdom of Italy the same year. The Ottoman Empire is in a much better position than in our own timeline, but would gradually lose power. Hungary gained its independence, Greece and Egypt are elevated to the status of client states, and maybe Russia takes the Crimean Khanate, which gives them access to the Black Sea. The Crimean War never happens as Russia never owned the title of protector of the Khristians in the Ottoman Empire. The United States still expand at the expense of Mexico, and in 1861 the Civil War still breaks out, and still with a Union victory. Sweden could end up expand its real in a colonial empire in Africa or Asia. The Franco-Prussian War doesn't break out, meaning that France still owns Alsace-Lorraine and that Napoleon is still in charge of France until his death in 1873. If a First World War were to break out, it would probably start in the Balkans. Russia would intervene in France, and later United Kingdom join on the side of Russia, while Germany and Sweden join on the side of the Ottoman Empire. Germany would still attempt the Schlieffen Plan, but here with the Russians weaker and at war with Sweden and the Ottoman Empire, Germany can send its whole force to the west. They crush the Netherlands and France and besiege Paris, after which Italy too joins. British forces end up abandoning their ally and France has to surrender. With France gone, Germany can help its allies to defeat Russia. Just 1 year into the war, the United Kingdom signs a white peace. Germany annexes all lands east of the Maas and Mosel River and puppets the German Netherlands under Wilhelm Edel Friedrich as William IV. Italy gets Corsica. In Russia, Sweden puppets Ruthenia and the Ottomans puppet the Crimean Khanate and Azerbaijan. This war would be short and decisive, and with the war being short it is unlikely extremism rises in Europe. Though it is possible that France becomes a republic, and like in Hôtel monarchists could still end up leading the nation, and with Henry Count of Chambord dead a restoration would be successful. In this timeline Sweden would be a dominant power in Europe, while Russia is at a worse position. These changes would also lead to Austria being diminished 2 centuries earlier and Prussia dominating Germany 2 centuries earlier than in our own timeline. If you liked the episode, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.